Guys, welcome to Maneuver. I'm Advocate Nisha Lotia, presenting to all the law aspirants one more mini demo lecture on the most dominating subject of the legal aptitude section, that is nothing but the contract law. Students, to boost your score in the entrance exam, it is mandatory that all the concepts of the contract law should be clear in your minds. Today I will discuss about one of the most important topics, that is essentials of a valid contract. But before commencing, let me make you aware about the course Maneuver has launched, which has not only the offline lectures, but it also has the e-books, correct? It also has the shortcut techniques. Okay, we provide this shortcut techniques because we know that the exam is time constrained, guys. Okay, how much ever knowledge you have, but you don't have the shortcut techniques, and it won't work. We have the doubt lecture because 100% clarity is a must thing for any entrance exam. The recorded video, in case if you miss any lecture, you can hear to the same, through the recorded videos. And even if you want to, just clear the concepts by rehearing the lecture, then you can go through the recorded videos. We have the topic test and the mock test, guys. These tests are essentials, and they are the replicas of your examinations which will appear on your entrance day. We have the WhatsApp group which will keep you motivated and which will answer your queries, at that very minute itself. We have 10,000 plus questions, which is very much required for your GK and all other topics. Okay, and the most important thing is the mentors at Maneuver appear exams every year. So any new type of questions or any variations which the CET cell or any of the examinations announce, we are the first to let you know. So guys, what are you waiting for? Just book your seat. Dial on 8828581454, or you can visit us on maneuveredu.com law entrance. Okay, so the link has even been mentioned in the description. As I told you, that contract law is one of the most important topics, most dominating topic, in the sense that you will have an weightage of 7 to 8 marks in your examinations from the Contract Act, guys. Alone, this topic will cover at least your 2 to 3 marks in your examination. So by itself, we know that this is one of the most important topics. So essentials of a valid contract: when a given contract becomes valid, when all these points are being mentioned there, that is, the consideration has to be lawful, the parties to it, there has to be competencies of the parties. Okay, then the object also has to be lawful. Lawful consideration and object, the lawful object, both are on the same lines, but sometimes they put a question on the consideration and sometimes they put the principle of the object. So we'll be doing both of it to give you much more clarity. Then is the free consent. It cannot, you cannot have a mental or physical pressure, guys, when you're signing up a contract, correct? And if you sign a contract under that pressure, then it becomes a voidable contract, correct? So one of the most important thing is that your consent has to be free. Fraud: if there is a willful fraud, correct, if there is a willful fraud, guys, then the contract will become invalid, correct? Next is the misrepresentation. Okay, that is there is a thin line between fraud and a misrepresentation. We're going to see all of them with examples, correct? And there is mistake. So there are two kinds of mistakes in law, guys. There are two kinds of mistake. One is mistake of facts and mistake of law. A true mentor, guys, a true mentor, what is the technique he or she should follow is that, guys, he has to first explain you the concept, correct, and then give you relevant examples. In law, nothing can be done worked out if you don't know it through examples, because every example is going to be different, and these examples can sometimes even form the facts of your questions. Many students, after attending my lectures, tell me, ma'am, we received not only the principles were same, but even the facts were same. So for the entrance exam, it is very much necessary that you should know the relevant case laws. You should know the relevant examples which are very, very famous in the lawyer's lobby. So these are the things that a mentor should possess before starting to mentorship any students. Now let's get back to the topic. It is about lawful consideration. Now, first of all, to know how a consideration is lawful, you should first know what is a consideration. Consideration, the Latin word for the consideration is quid pro quo. It is quid pro quo, means, guys, something in return of the another thing. Something in return of the another thing. Correct? For example, if you are placing a shirt, you're placing, say, order of 500 shirts, okay? You're placing an order of 500 shirts of rupees 100 each, correct? So that will amount to your 50,000, correct? So you are placing, the order of the shirts, correct? So you're going to pay him money. So money from your side is your consideration. And the opposite party, he will be delivering you the shirts. So from his side, the shirts will be consideration from his side. So law says that the consideration has to be lawful. If over here you're dealing for, say, guns, then your consideration is not lawful. It will be illegal consideration, and that will not amount to a valid contract. That will not amount to a valid contract. So the first and the foremost essential point that the consideration should be lawful. Let's see what the section says. Section 23 of the Indian Contract Act clearly states that the consideration of a contract is considered lawful unless, मतलब ये सारी चीजें उसमें नहीं होनी चाहिए, okay? The word is unless, which is negative. They are specifically forbidden by law, okay? Something that is forbidden by law. So if you are dealing with guns, then it is unlawful, correct? Of such a nature that they would defeat the purpose of law, are fraudulent, involve injury to any person or property, the courts regard them as immoral and are opposed to public policy. Correct? So these are the foremost thing that you should know what a lawful consideration is. Correct? First, for that you should know what a consideration is, and then how it can be lawful. So one of the most important topic, for the essentials is that it should be a lawful consideration. The next is competency of the parties. The parties, for example, if A and B are into a contract for something, correct? Then these are the contracting parties, correct? There has to be some competencies that they shouldn't be minor, correct? They shouldn't be insane, correct? And they shouldn't be stopped by law. In the sense, if B is declared insolvent by the law of court, okay, like, if he's declared insolvent, guys, then he's a bankrupt. And if you get into a contract with him, then the court will not be there for your safety. So whenever you're getting into a contract with somebody, you should always keep in mind that contracting parties cannot be a minor. If अगर आप कोई minor के साथ contract करते हो, समझो, if a person, he is of 17 years of age, correct, and you do not check his age and you enter into a contract with him, then if you have given him 5 lakh rupees advance and he is not delivering his promise, guys, then your 5 lakh rupees is in a trouble, and law will also not help you, because law is clear that the parties has to be cannot be minor to the contract with minors are void ab initio. Yet another legal word, Latin word, that is void ab initio, is void, that is illegal from beginning itself, from beginning. Void ab initio means from beginning, okay? So there cannot exist a valid contract when the contracting party is a minor to it, okay? Sane and of sound mind, the person with whom you're contracting, for example, A and B are the parties, correct? Then they cannot be a lunatic or an insane person, because they don't know what terms and conditions they are signing on, okay? But guys, if a person has this thing that for some hours of a day he is sane, and for other hours of a day he is insane, so whenever he is sane, he can sign a contract, okay? He can sign a contract. This is legally allowed, this is legitimate, okay? Next is not be stopped by law from entering into a contract, but he shouldn't be insolvent, guys. For example, Vijay Malia, okay? Vijay Malia over here, we all know that he's a bankrupt right now, and if you enter into any contracts with him now, then court will not help you, okay? Court will not help you, guys, because parties to the contract is not competent to enter into a contract, and therefore the contract is not valid. It is an invalid contract which cannot be enforceable in the courts of law. Next in the line is lawful object. The object has to be lawful. As I told you, if you're dealing in guns, correct? Same way, if you are, if you pay somebody, okay, if you're paying somebody saying, and that person is saying that he will get you a government job, okay? So this is one kind of bribing, correct? This is one kind of bribing. And if you give him 2 lakh rupees advance, but in return he is not offering you any job, you cannot go to the court of law, guys. You cannot go to the court of law. Why? Because the object is not lawful. Always remember, it is not about guns, cocaines, correct? it can be drugs, it can be sometimes about even about bribing. Okay, so this should strike to you that even bribing is not allowed in India. Okay, gambling and betting contracts are the best example of unlawful object, because gambling and betting, both the contracts, are the best example, because these practices are legally not allowed in India. But you have to keep in mind, guys, in India horse racing is legal and valid. So if at all, if you have any concerns about the principle and facts question, so remember that in India the horse racing is legal. Okay, so lawful object and lawful consideration, mutually both are same but written in different words, so you shouldn't get confused what is a consideration and what is object. Both, दोनों के जो examples होंगे, okay, दोनों की जो language होगी वो almost same होगी, but if the principle is talking about lawful object, then your answer has to be lawful object, it cannot be lawful consideration. Am I clear about it? So please take that note of that point, guys. Next is a free consent. What does the word consent means? Consent means to permit, है ना? To permit. Okay. So the consent has to be free. It cannot be under any force. Correct. It cannot be under any force, whether physical or mental. कोई pressure नहीं होना चाहिए आप पे जब आप कोई भी document sign कर रहे हो. Another important aspect is like free consent. Let's get started over here. The consent of the parties to the contract has to be free and under no pressure, mental or physical. Correct? The consent has to be free. Very very important point. इसमें से बहुत ही bright chance है आपके लिए question आने का. Okay? Coercion. It is committing or threatening to commit an act. Okay? Now, if you have any, say, any ancestor's property, okay, and you are not willing to sell it, okay, it is an ancestor's property and you're not willing to sell it, but the builder is coming and showing you a gun, correct, is showing you a gun, and if you sign a contract, okay, over there, so the contract is not a free, the contract is not about a free consent, you have signed it due to the force, correct, so that can be what, the contract will be a voidable contract. Am I clear about it? It will not be a valid contract. It will not be a valid contract unless when it will be a valid contract, when you actually feel, okay, I will sell him my property, then it will become a valid. But if you go to the court of law, okay, you go to the court of law saying that force has been used on me and thereby I have signed the contract, I do not intend to perform my contract, then it will be a voidable contract. So one of the most important point is that the consent has to be free. There shouldn't be any coercion to it. Okay, undue influence, this is about the relationship. There are not always the force is not used over here. Okay, the element of force is missing, but what is it? It is the pressure is because of the relationship. If you sign up a document because you're in a relationship under husband and wife, parent child, guru disciple, landlord tenant, employer employee, these kinds of when you sign a document mere pressure of a relationship, then it will be again under the undue influence. Correct. Next in the line is fraud. Okay, what is fraud, guys? Fraud is nothing but willful and deliberate misstatement to deceive someone. Now the word deceive means to cheat. Correct. If you know, guys, I will give a very beautiful example. If there is a shopkeeper, okay, there is a shopkeeper, correct, he has this beautiful bat, okay, and it has a beautiful carvings on it, correct. Now he knows that it is not Sachin's bat, Sachin Tendulkar's bat I'm talking about, okay, it is not Sachin's bat, but yet, okay, over here, if he tells to the customer, that it is Sachin's bat, it is Sachin's bat. So this is an absolute fraud, because he is really lying about this, correct. वो झूठ बोल रहा है कि it is Sachin's bat because he knows that it is not Sachin's bat. He already knows this, correct. So it will be what? It will be fraud. So once the customer comes to the about the awareness that it is not Sachin's bat, then he can go to the court of law. Am I clear? Stating that the fraud has been played on him. But guys, in the second case, okay, the same shopkeeper, guys, the same shopkeeper, okay, उसने just manufacturer से खरीदा है, okay, उसने just manufacturer से खरीदा है, उसने उसको बोला है कि सचिन ने ये बैट से खेला है, it is Sachin's bat, okay, and he believes he believes it to be Sachin's bed, and thereby he tells the customer that it is Sachin's bed. Then what? It is not a fraud. It is not a willful misstatement. But what it will be? It will be misrepresentation of the facts. Okay. The falsity, inaccuracy of the statement is not due to any desire to deceive, correct, to cheat or defraud the other party. It is an innocent statement made by the party making it believes it to be true. Okay, उसको तो शॉपकीपर को लग ही रहा है कि वो सचिन का बैट बेच रहा है, but when the fact is known to the customer, he can go to the court and say that the misrepresentation is played on him. Am I clear? And if he's saying the fraud is played on him, the shopkeeper can, prove the point of misrepresentation. Am I clear? It? So fraud is not a good defense, guys. It is not a good defense. Correct? But yes, misrepresentation is always a good defense. Always a good defense. Am I clear? It? There's a very thin line between fraud and misrepresentation. देखो facts वही है, but यहाँ पे willful intention है, यहाँ पे malified intention है. Correct? There's a malified intention, and यहाँ पे there is innocence. Am I clear about it? Next in the line is mistake. What is the definition of mistake, guys? It is defined as erroneous belief concerning something. Correct? कुछ गलती से कुछ आपने किया है. Now, mistake under law is of two types. Okay, one is mistake of law and mistake of facts. Now, mistake of law is what? That you being a responsible citizen of India, correct? You being a responsible citizen of India, guys, there are certain laws that you should know. There are certain laws that you should know. For example, you say it is drink and drive. Okay, you say it is drink and drive. Now, after you drink and drive, and if you have met with an accident, then you say, oh, I was not aware about this law. Can that be acceptable? For example, if you have to pay income tax, correct? If you have to pay income tax and you have not paid income tax since last 3 years, and after there is an, there is a क्या बोलते हैं, scrutiny आएगा आप पे. Okay, if there's a scrutiny, and over there you go and plead, oh, I am sorry, I forgot to pay income tax, or I'm not aware that I have to pay the income tax. Will the income tax tribunal accept this? What he will ask you? He will ask you to pay the tax, correct, and plus the penalty charges and plus the interest, correct. Why? Because mistake of law is never acceptable. It is never acceptable. For example, I'll give you a small example. If you're parking a car, under a no parking area, okay, and thereby you say, oh shit, I was not aware that I shouldn't park my car over here. Can that be acceptable? That can never be acceptable. That can never be acceptable. But mistake of facts is always acceptable. For example, say for example, you are planning to get married to a person, okay, say to Mr. A, okay, but Mr. B thinks that Mr. A and B both thinks that you have agreed to marry to Mr. B. So can on the date of marriage, actually the marriage, get solemnized? No. Why? Because there is a mistake of facts. There is a mistake of facts. Certain things that is excusable. Okay, if A and B is dealing about the horse, correct? But while they were dealing, A, the owner of the horse, does not know that the horse is dead. So if he is dealing, later on he can plead it is a mistake of facts. It is a mistake of facts. Mistake of facts is always a good defense. Okay, is always a good defense. Where the mistake of law is never a defense. Is never a defense, guys. Okay, so these are some of the essentials for a contract to become a valid contract. If all this is in a proper place, then only a contract will become valid in the eyes of law, which means that it is an enforceable contract. Otherwise, you cannot go to the law of court to, if the person is not performing his part of the contract. Am I clear about it? There's a very important maxim. Latin maxims are the words which are used in the Latin language, and you should know this because ये कभी-कभी CET cell में वगैरह they ask it about the maxim in the all the law entrance exams. Ignoratio facit excusat. Ignoratio juris non excusat. Now this is a Latin language. What does this mean? Ignorance of fact is excusable, but the ignorance of law is non-excusable. This is what I said you. This can never, ignorance of fact is excusable. Meant this is a good defense, guys. Correct? Ignorance of fact is a good defense, but ignorance of law, okay, of law is never a defense. Okay. Now, based on these, I have taken a couple of questions. Do try and solve them with me. Okay. So it will have a clear picture about the concept. We here at Maneuver, guys, we here at Maneuver first explain the concept and practically solve so many questions with students कि by end of the syllabus they are all set with the entrance exam. Okay, so now let's see. We solve at least minimum say 20 to 25 questions per topic, guys. Okay, let's start with the first question for the day. Legal principle: the consideration or object of an agreement is unlawful if the court regards it as opposed to public policy. Correct? Every agreement of which the object or consideration is unlawful is void. As I told you, the topic is saying if the consideration or object is unlawful, the your contract also will become unlawful. X promises to obtain for Y an employment in the public service and Y promises to pay 5 lakh to X. Okay. Now over here it is regarding to get an employment in the public department. Correct. Now which of the following derivation is correct? There is a contract between X and Y. Okay. There is a voidable contract between X and Y. There is an agreement between X and Y which can be enforced by the court of law. There is an agreement between X and Y which cannot be enforced by the court of law. Okay, you can pause the video over here and just try and check whether you know the correct answer. Okay, so I am giving you an example. What is the difference between an agreement and a contract? Guys, very important topic for you is this. Agreement is nothing when an offer is made, okay, and when it is accepted, okay, it becomes an agreement. Correct? But what is a contract? There is an offer, there is an acceptance, correct? So there is an agreement. But for agreement to come into the category of contract, then it has to be legally enforceable. It has to be legally enforceable, guys. Okay? So over here, there is a promise. X promises to obtain Y an office, an employment. So over here, there is an offer and there is an acceptance, correct? There is only an agreement over here. And Y promises to pay 5 lakh, correct? But over here, can this promise, if any of the parties to it does not fulfill, can you go to the court of law and say, guys, that he is not performing his part of a contract? It is a clear case of bribing. So bribing cannot be legally enforceable. So it is this particular deal is only till the term of agreement. It can never be a contract. So there is a contract between X and Y. No, this is not my correct answer choice. There is a voidable contract. No, there is no voidable contract, guys. It is illegal only. So it is not voidable. You cannot go to the court. तो voidable तो हो ही नहीं सकता आपका. There is an agreement between X and Y which can be enforced by the court of law. How can an illegal, जिसका consideration ही illegal है, जिसका object unlawful है, उसको आप कैसे court of law में जा सकते हो, correct? There is an agreement between X and Y. Yes, we can agree to it. There is an agreement between X and Y which cannot be enforced into the court of law. So this is my correct answer choice. I have reasoned out my, question. So please pay attention to the explanation. ऐसे concept पे बहुत सारे facts frame हो सकते हैं, guys. Okay. Legal principle says, second question, ignorance of fact is excused, but ignorance of law is not excused. Okay, it is not excused. Facts: X was a passenger from Zurich to Manila in a Swiss plane. When the plane landed at the airport of Bombay on 28 November 1962, it was found on searching that X carried 34 kg of gold bars on his person and that he had not declared it in the manifest for transit. On 26 November 1962, the Government of India had issued a notification modifying its earlier exemption, making it mandatory now that the gold must be declared in the manifest of the aircraft. Now, there is a difference of only 2 days, correct? Because on 26th, there was a change in the notification, correct? The government has issued this, amendment, and on 28th this thing has actually happened. Now let's see what are the options. X cannot be prosecuted because he had no knowledge. He actually had no knowledge about the new notification issued 2 days ago. X cannot be prosecuted because ignorance of fact is excusable. X can be prosecuted because ignorance of law is not excusable. X's liability would depend on the discretion of the court. Okay, so guys, pause the video here and try to solve it for yourself. Okay, I proceed with the answer. The principle is clearly saying, guys, ignorance of fact is excusable while ignorance of law is not excusable. And we clearly see that this is nothing but ignorance of law. Correct? Ignorance of law. Given the fact, even it is just a 2 days old amendment, but law will not take all these points into consideration because law is very much clear that ignorance of law is not excusable, guys. Okay, so he will be charged. Okay, so X cannot be prosecuted will not be my answer. X cannot be prosecuted because ignorance of fact is excusable, but यहाँ पे ignorance of fact है ही नहीं, it is about ignorance of law. Okay, so this is also not my correct answer choice. X can be prosecuted because ignorance of law is not excusable. Looks good to me. I'll mark over here, but I'll read the last one also. X's liability would depend on the discretion of the court. This will also not be my answer. Okay, guys. So this is how you need to apply. You need to, guys, apply the principle to the given facts and thereby to the given options. This is nothing but the direct application of the principle. Okay, so these types of question you can expect in your entrance exam from the contract law. Very, very important this topic is, guys. So guys, you can join us for the live classes. You can join us for the books, the mock test, everything. We have the entire package which will really, benefit your preparation and thereby boost your score, guys. Do subscribe the channel if you have not subscribed, because we keep on posting the videos. We keep on posting the, new notifications. We are live on the Facebook also, guys, and do follow us on Instagram and do join us on our Telegram channel also. Here we keep on posting lot of questions for your GK, your vocabularies, your law. Okay, and guys, do not forget to hit the like button if you have liked the video, so this will keep me boosted for any new videos. And do let me know in the comment if any queries, and do let me know what you want to hear from our side in the next video, and check the link in the description to join us. Stay safe and prepare yourself into the best level. Thank you.